All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We'll go ahead and kick started here a little bit after 12 o'clock with head coach Jerry Mack's weekly press conference. And coach, if you could just maybe start us off with opening a statement, putting the previous game to bed and looking forward to New Mexico State. And then also, if you would, just touch on at the end, obviously just announced that our Jacksonville State game in a couple of weeks is going to be on another nationally televised game for the Owls and just kind of what that means to the program.
Yeah. Well, obviously very, very proud of the way the team competed last Tuesday, I guess it was now. Just the energy, the effort, that they showed the grit, the toughness to overcome being down kind of mid third quarter, late in the third quarter, to overcome some of that adversity. Offensively, we had our ups and downs and our moments, struggled a little bit, but when it mattered and when we had to put a couple scores on the board, they dug down deep and they figured out a way. Defensively, besides a couple of big plays that night, I thought they did a really good job. Had some guys, some young guys in some different roles step up and do some really outstanding things. And I just think that's a compliment to the way those guys continue to grow and they continue to find ways to win games and continue the next man up mentality. More than anything else, our student sections, our fans, they stay really to the end, rain and cold. Just can't say enough about the community and the support that we've received so thus far from the entire fan base of Kennesaw State. So we just got to kind of continue to do that, continue to keep it going. We have, this stretch, these last 4 games down the stretch, we're going to need everybody to really pitch in and support to end up having success. Um, talked about, this being a game, this being a game, this upcoming game against New Mexico State, really an important game for all of us. This team right now presents a lot of different challenges. They are extremely explosive and dynamic on the offense side of the ball. They do a lot of good things. They have a lot of playmakers, to be honest with you, from their receiver core, tight end core, that they've shown the ability to score points a lot over the course of this season. Defensively, they present a lot of different challenges up front with tons of movement from their defensive line. Their secondary is playing really good football right now as well, flying all over the ball, really presenting a lot of different challenges for all of us. The playmakers that they have on special teams, number 12, whenever he touches the ball, offense or special teams, he's just dynamic. Anytime he's gotten back from injury this year, and every time he consistently shows up on film, and you have to know where he is at all times whenever he's on the field. So we have a big game. Obviously, it's the big game. It's the biggest game because it's the next game, and we got to do a great job of really getting focused and making sure that we put that last game behind us and we come to play for this next upcoming opponent. And the last thing I would say is, you mentioned us having a national televised game against Jacksonville State. Man, that's big for our program. That's big for our university. The more opportunities that we get to get our balls to the television and continue to sell our brand at Kennesaw State, that only helps us growth wise on the long term. We have a lot of momentum going right now as far as our university, not just football. We're starting basketball season, and then also too just the things that we're doing from an academic standpoint. All those things fit together and they allow us to continue to grow and continue to be able to sell our brand here at Kennesaw State. With that said, I'll open up for questions now.
Hi, you want to start us off?
Yeah, Coach, just to get the injuries out of the way, I think the broadcast went out and said that Tylon Dunlap was out for the year. Is that the case? And then JT Pennington obviously went down early in that game. What's the status on him? And if we don't see him, can we expect Cam to step back in his spot?
Yeah, the Tyler Dunlap is not out. He will be available this week. They misspoke in that information. JT moved around really for the first time on Saturday when we kind of got back to practice, and then moved around pretty good today. So we'll get into the nuts and bolts of practice on Tuesdays and Wednesdays tomorrow and the next day, and just kind of see exactly what he can do. But I do feel confident he will make the trip for sure. We'll just continue to monitor him and see exactly how much he'll be available this upcoming week. If not, Cam will step into that starting position, and he will continue to do a good job like he did last week.
Coach, it's already been brought up that the game on the 15th is shaping up to be a pretty big one here. But with that in mind, how do you keep guys focused on New Mexico State this week?
Yeah, we talked a lot about today in the building, 26 days left in this season, 4 game stretch. We want to try to accomplish all our hopes and dreams by staying as focused as possible for these next 26 days. Obviously, the most important day is today because, it is the day of prep that we have to continue to get better for New Mexico State. Nobody really is going to really care about being bowl eligible if we drop these next few games in a row. So we want to continue to keep the momentum high. We want to continue to keep these guys focused. We know we have one goal accomplished, which is great. But more than anything else, like we have to find a way to get one more point in the opponent this upcoming week. And I think the focus today in practice was really good. I thought our guys really understand what the challenge is in front of them. We understand that the New Mexico State team is going to be their homecoming. It's going to be for them to continue to keep their bowl eligibility chances alive. So we have a lot to play for this upcoming week.
Coach, now that you're at the end of it, with this chaotic midweek schedule, first time through, is there somewhat of an advantage when you get essentially three half buys in a season rather than two regular ones?
It's definitely an advantage to me. I love the opportunity to like continue to heal the bodies throughout the month of October. One thing that we did a really good job, I thought of, is resetting. It allowed us to continue to get healthier, gives guys a couple of extra days. Those extra days are so critical. The difference between 24 hours and 72 hours of rest or to continue to heal the body makes a world of difference. It's really the difference between getting the opportunity to play on that following week and not, to be honest with you. And that has really helped us be in the position that we are in right now because we were able to get guys back to game days because of that extra time.
Coach, it's been a few weeks since we've seen Jaden Kelly out there. Is there something going on with him, or is that just how the lineup is shaking out?
Just kind of how the lineup is shaking out. We got some guys that stepping up, doing a really good job, playing really at a high level right now. And the next man up mentality. You saw Taiwan step into a spot and get conference player of the week. So, we will continue to monitor that process and continue to see exactly, how he fits into the game plan. But so far, those guys at that position have really been taking up the slack and playing well.
Questions for Coach?
Coach Manuel Glaze from the Crush Sports Talk. A couple questions. Congratulations on becoming bowl eligible first. But at the QB position, you started Williams last week, and then Odom came in. Is the plan for this week against New Mexico State to go with Odom, or what's your plans at the QB position?
Yeah, we started Dexter. We didn't know if we didn't feel like at that time that Mari could really be 100% the best version of himself. So we let Dexter kind of take the starting spot, and we just were looking for something a little bit different in the second half. So we ended up going with Amari and try to give us a spark, which he did. I think going forward, I mean, this upcoming week, Amari he will be the starter. He'll slide right back into that starting spot, and we kind of go from there.
One of the things about Conference USA not only is about the Tuesday games, but also the travel. A game like going to New Mexico State, going to New Mexico. How do you work with the team to get them prepared for almost a cross country trip during the week?
Yeah, just a little bit more time on the plane, and we'll get a little bit more rest that night. Say that Friday night, we'll put them to bed a little bit earlier, just so they can kind of catch up with the time and things like that. But like we try to be as consistent as possible and not try to change much of the routine unless it really calls for it. I think it's about a 3 o'clock kickoff or something to that nature. So, we're usually a morning operation anyway. So we kind of got to get up and get rolling in the morning on Saturday morning. So it won't be too much different. If anything, just this week is a little bit different because today is actually a real Monday and we don't have to pretend like it's another day this week.
Also, with you having um, such a being in first place in Conference USA, how do you keep the team as hunters and not being hunted, because everybody now sees you guys at the top of the heap, and now that that every time you step on the court it's the Conference USA leading Kennesaw State? How do you keep them focused to be hunters instead of hunted in this process?
Yeah, we try to go about our process and go about our processes as normal. We talked in the past, when this first occurred, like we was in the first place spot. We talked about like we want to get everybody best, and really you're going to get everybody's best even more so down the stretch because a lot of teams are fighting tooth and nail, fighting for their lives to try to get bowl eligible or to continue their hopes alive to get bowl eligible. So we understand what the task at hand is. We understand the sense of urgency that it's going to have to take to go into these games. People are going to play for 4 quarters, and they're going to have grit. They're going to have toughness. UTEP, you saw a little bit at UTEP. No matter what the score was, even when they went up, they were still fighting and clawing. When they were down, they were fighting and clawing. So that's just the nature of doing business. Really, at this point in the season, everybody's trying to accomplish their hopes and dreams, and like we're no different. We have something to continue to play for. Bowl eligibility was not an ultimate goal; it was just a baseline goal. So like we're no different than all the rest of these teams. We're going to be continue to fight and claw and try to get our goals accomplished as well.
Our last question for you, Coach. Um, what have you seen throughout this season as far as your perspective as the coach of Kennesaw State that you've learned and you've taken through each game to, prepare for each week for yourself?
Yeah, we try to address any mistakes and all the things that we talk about, trying to get better as a team as the season progresses. The great teams are going to be remembered. They're going to play well in November, so they can be remembered. The teams that I remember, they play good football down the stretch, and that's what we're trying to do. More than anything, throughout this whole entire season, when we started this journey, the first part of the season, there were some penalty issues that continue to come up. We put the ball on the ground a few times in the first part of the season. What we have done as a program and as a team, we have made an effort and really been intentional about every week trying to address all those penalties or those fumbles or interceptions, all the mistakes, right? We tried to clean up anything that will prevent us from not having success. And even when those things don't come back and bite us at that given moment, we still talk about what could happen overall as a football team. So I think that is what has allowed us to be in the position that we're in right now is that we address those things head on. We don't wait till they actually happen. We try to be as proactive as possible to try to address those things.
Questions for Coach?
Hey, Coach. With New Mexico State, it seems like they've kind of had a different guy that's led to that explosiveness that you talked about related to their offense. How do you go about game planning for that when it seems to be just a different guy that steps up every game?
Yeah, we got to be super sound in our schemes and kind of what we're doing. The biggest thing is we're always kind of understanding where those playmakers are at on the field in certain situations. A lot of times, what teams would do is on certain D&Ds or certain situations, field position, they would try to target certain people on certain type of plays. It's our defensive staff's job to make sure that on those types of situations, they understand, hey, they like to throw it or they like to run it here or they like to do some different things with motion or some shifts to certain people to try to get them the ball in these situations. And we study tendencies. Every coordinator in the country has kind of a fingerprint as far as what they're going to do, offense, defense, and special teams. And that's what we're trying to do consistently throughout the week. We're trying to consistently crack the code, so to speak, to try to kind of see exactly what these guys do and what their plan of attack is. So, Coach Mattioli and the defensive staff, so far they've done a really good job, and I think they'll continue to do a good job of trying to figure out exactly what those things are, those different positions or different situations to try to stop those certain guys.
Coach, you touched on this earlier in Emmanuel's question, but what specifically do you hope your team can replicate about what it takes to win on the road that you saw a couple weeks ago against FIU?
Yeah, the just all phases having to play together. One thing about our football team, offense, defense, and special teams, what we've been doing a good job of is all phases. Every man that steps on that plane knows that he has an opportunity to affect the game in a positive manner. So no matter whether you're the left tackle on the kickoff return or the left wing or the right wing on the field goal unit, like you have to make sure that you're doing your job at a high level. So being able to be focused in all phases of our game, being able to show up, offense, defense, and special teams, we're going to need a positive and a game-changing play for the most part from every phase of the game. We just can't depend on the defense to show up when they have to or the offense to go out there and score 40 points. That's not how our team works. We take that as 70 plus players on that plane for a reason because we feel like all those guys will give us an opportunity in some kind of way at some point in time to have success on the field.
Obviously, last game was a huge game for Chase Belcher. We saw a little bit more of him against FIU. How do you anticipate the running back rotation shaking out Saturday?
Really just depends on the health of that room. Chase was the healthiest back the previous week, and he did an outstanding job going for over 100 yards. I think as the days have went through, the guys have gotten a little bit healthier, which is really good. So we'll just kind of see as we kind of practice tomorrow and Wednesday, the bulk pad days for us. Just kind of see who is moving around well, who has that shiftiness, who has that burst that we like to see at the running back position. So that's always going to be a work in progress. I mean, all of those guys will travel. All of those guys will get an opportunity. But on Saturday, it's really about who is the healthiest on that day.
Thank you, Coach.
Anything else for Coach Mack? All right. Thank you very much, Coach, and thanks all of you for joining.
All right,
Thank
thank
you,
you guys.
Coach.